Like I said, we have a review sheet. So, number 1. What was the name of the angle pair for angle 1 and angle 4? Vertical angles.
Vertical for two of them. Is that right?
No. 2 and angle 6. Corresponding. 4 and 5. Alternate interior. 7 and 8. Linear pair.
Oh, you're saying, I thought you were saying the numbers of the problem. Linear pair isn't one of the options.
Yeah, but it's always an option. It just wasn't listed.
Yeah.
Oops. Yep. It should be linear pair. 3 and 5. Consecutive interior. What's the difference between consecutive and alternate interior?
One is consecutive and one is alternative.
Okay. Several people talking at once. Maybe just one. What do you got, Miss Cross? So they're consecutive. They're next to each other. They're on the same side, I heard somebody say. Okay. Consecutive interior and same side interior. They're next to each other. They're on the same side of the transversal. Okay. Alternate interior. They're on alternate sides of the transversal. Some people still get confused, call it opposite interior. It's alternate, even though it's opposite sides. It's alternate interior. How about number 6, 8 and 1? Alternate exterior. All right, let's look at number 7. All right. Number 7, we had. There we go.
Mr. Dorn,
Yes.
on the test tomorrow, we have to say whether it's converse or theorem.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. We use converse when we're proving that lines are parallel. We use theorem when we know the lines are parallel to start with, right? So if we're proving the lines are parallel, if our conclusion is the lines are parallel, then we're using converse. If we know the lines are parallel and we're just using it to find the measure value of x, then we're just using theorem. So we had 130 and 2x minus 70. Now, for those of you who are pretty confident with this, and that's about half of you'll know this really fast, you'll know what to do. But there are about half the people here who aren't, so I'm going to walk through it nice and slow. When I look at this problem and I'm given that these lines are parallel, I need to find the value of x. I have to figure out one of 3 relationships. It's going to be one of 3 situations in most cases. They're either going to be congruent to each other, which means the measures are equal. They're going to add up to 90, or they're going to add up to 180. Those are really my 3 choices. We could also add up to a total, but we haven't done that one lately, and that's not going to be on this test, so we're not worried about that. So I have to look at this and see what kind of makes sense. Obviously, adding up to 90 doesn't make sense here, because this angle is already 130, right? It's already more than 90. This angle isn't negative. Second, it doesn't make sense for them to be congruent because I can see very clearly that this angle is obtuse. From its measurement, it's 130. This angle is definitely not obtuse. So congruent wouldn't make sense, which means the only choice I have left is that they have to add up to 180. They have to be supplementary because they're consecutive interior angles. I mean, some of you know that consecutive interior angles, that's the name of the pair, and consecutive interior angles theorem tells me that they are adding up to 180. But again, if we're solving for x, we've got to figure out some way, if I don't remember that, to figure out how to set up that equation, Mr. Kress. Oh yeah, if this 2x plus 70 was over here, totally different situation. What's the angle pair? Corresponding angles have to be congruent, yeah, equal measure. So, I mean, yeah, move the angle and you completely change the situation. definitely. But this is the situation we're given, so my equation should look like, and I want to see written out 130 plus 2x plus 70. Actually, I think it's supposed to be minus 70, isn't it? Did I copy it down wrong? Yeah, I did. Equals 180. It's supposed to be minus. Sorry. I'll rewrite that. There we go. All right. And now we just do the math. 130 minus 70 is 60. We subtract the 60. Please be careful. And we've got our solution. Now, I had somebody this morning I was working with going over this worksheet who did something really good. They, instead of subtracting 60, they added 60, got 240, and got x equals 120. And then they stopped and said, I don't think that's right. It doesn't make sense. What a smart thing to say. Seriously. Because what that person did is they looked at the answer, and they looked at the problem and said, something's not right here. If that was 120, then this would be 240 minus 70. Nah, that's not a 170-degree angle. That's not right. They checked the answer and wanted to see if the answer made sense, noticed it didn't, and realized they'd made a mistake and had to go back and correct it. That is such a good thing to do. Always check your answers to make sure they make sense. Right, Vinny? And always try to stay awake during class. Right, Matt? There we go. Yeah. I know it's warm in here. It's hard to stay awake, but I'm trying. Please try with me, Mr. Chris.
What did you say that was alternate interior?
Alternate interior is congruent. Okay? Basically, all of them are congruent except for linear pair and consecutive interior. Those are the only two that are supplementary. All the rest of them are congruent. All right? Ms. Perkins. No, we're still on number 7. Okay. Let's do number 8. Number 8, my lines look like this. Those are parallel with a transversal like this. Again, indication that these are parallel lines. I had 3x plus 15 and 105. What's the name of that angle pair? Alternate exterior angles need to be congruent or supplementary? Congruent. So 3x plus 15 equals 105. And that's a fairly easy one. Okay. Number 9. Uh, 2x minus 95 and x. All right. What's the name of that angle pair? And again, the instructions here say find the measure of x that makes it congruent or makes the lines parallel. What theorem would we use if I said y? Are these two lines going to be parallel for this value of x? What would be the y? What theorem would we be using here? What do you got to do? Alternate interior angles converse, because we're proving the lines are parallel. So good job identifying the angle pair. Okay? Alternate interior angles converse. So what has to be true about the alternate interior angles in order for it to work? Those angles have to be congruent or supplementary. This one's kind of hard to tell because it's not obvious, like, let's go back. This one was really obvious that one's acute and one's obtuse, isn't it? This one, not quite so much. It's not really obvious. So I need to know my stuff. Are alternate interior angles congruent or supplementary? Now, if you're not sure, remember a couple things. What? It's kind of a Z shape, right? That's the alternate interior shape, is always that Z shape of some sort. And that Z shape means we're going to have what type of angles? Congruent or supplementary? Well, think of a more extreme Z shape. Are those angles going to be supplementary? Okay. Well, then be confident in your answer. Say it again. Don't be guessing. Be confident. You second-guessed yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be confident. I can assume anything I want. All right, so they're congruent. So x equals 2x minus 95. Now, this is one of the equations that kind of messes people up. Because we're so used to doing plus 95, and we're done. Yeah, there we go. Not this time. Now, this is an algebra little trick. I have to look and go, oh, wait a minute. I have to move the 2x, don't I? I have to do that. This is 1x minus 2x is negative 1x equals negative 95. So x equals 95. All right? So a little algebra there for extra. Number 10. Again, 4x minus 28 and 100. What's the name of the angle pair? Corresponding angles. And so if I wanted to prove these lines are parallel, if I wanted to prove that, if that's what I want to prove, what would I have to use? What theorem? Corresponding angles converse to prove the lines are parallel. So what is the relationship going to have to be for corresponding angles? These two angles have to be congruent or supplementary or add up to 90. Which one? Complementary, supplementary, congruent. People should be jumping out of your chairs knowing this answer at this point. Same measurement. Okay. Congruent. Congruent. Whoa. Okay, try again. 100 equals 4x minus 28. Add the 28. So 128 equals 4x. So that's 32. Okay. I'm making up another key as I go here. I should have been doing that. Going back quick, checking my answers. 95, 30. Might as well copy down the answers as long as I got them. 60. Yes. Yeah, I think so. What do I got? I got to see what I have. Actually, I'm not sure I have another review packet for tonight. I think this is it. The test itself is like 17 questions. So, yeah, I don't think I have another review packet. I think this is just it. Well, there's some review problems in the book that I can show you that you can work on. But this is mainly it. All right, 11. Find the slope between negative 1, negative 2, and 0, 5. All I want is the slope. Don't want the equation of line, just the slope. So again, we need to know our slope formula, and this is just one of those things you have to have memorized. Hopefully you do have it memorized. If you don't have it memorized, time to get it together, get it memorized. I've got too many people who look at that and still say, find the slope. Oh, y equals mx plus b. That is slope-intercept form of a linear equation. That is not just slope. This is just slope. This is just m. So again, we have to be very, very careful with our negative signs. 5 minus negative 2 over 0 minus negative 1. It's plus positive, so it's 7 over 1. The slope of this line is 7. I hope you got that. I hope you got that the slope is 7. Or 7 over 1. Number 12, the slopes are what? What are the two slopes? It's y equals 6x plus 2 and y equals 8x minus 4. What's the slope of this line? And the slope of this line? Okay, is that parallel, perpendicular, or neither? It's neither. Okay? Neither parallel nor perpendicular. What if it's true? How do I know if slopes are, or if lines are parallel? Their slopes have to be. How about if they're perpendicular? What do you mean by opposite? Explain that. Flip the fraction and change the sign, both. Okay? Completely opposite. Second set of lines that gave me points, so I'm going to have to actually calculate slope. So negative 2, 1, and 1, negative 1. Was one of my lines. So again, I do slope formula. Negative 1 minus 1 over 1 minus negative 2. So that's negative 2 over 3. Negative 2/3 of that slope. Second line, line 2, is 1, 3, and 4, 1. So I'm going to get 3 minus 1 over 1 minus 4. Now some of you are going, wait, stop, wait a minute. All done? Ah, good. Okay. You have to do y2 minus y1. You just did y1 minus y2. Is that okay? Yeah, it is, so long as I'm consistent. I mean, who's to say this is point 1 and this is point 2? I could say this is point 1 and this is point 2, couldn't I? As long as I'm consistent, as long as I choose this y first, I just have to put this x first. So it doesn't matter. So 3 minus 1 is 2, 1 minus 2, 4 is negative 3. How about those slopes? Are they parallel, perpendicular, or neither?
I have a question.
What? Can you answer my question first? Parallel, perpendicular, or neither? No.
Isn't, there's a negative sign in the fraction, doesn't it just automatically go to the middle then?
Yes.
So then wouldn't it be the same?
Yes, they are.
So it's parallel.
Yes, parallel. They are parallel.
Does that make it seem tricky?
It can. It can. But these are, I mean, it's a negative. It doesn't matter if it's a numerator or denominator. It's still indicating the fraction itself is negative. The fraction. All right, graphing equations. Aha. I even got the graphs on the right pages in the slides. Very proud of myself today. All right, graph the equation y equals negative 4x minus 1. Y equals negative 4x minus 1. Where's the y-intercept? Negative 1. Does that mean right there? Is that good? What's wrong with that? It's a y-intercept, not an x-intercept. It's on the wrong axis. So instead I'm going to put it there. I'm going to label it. Okay? What's the slope? Negative 4. Numbers, really? Okay, so that means starting at my intercept, how am I going to go? Down 4 and right 1, or up 4 and left 1. So that's the point -1, 3. This is the point 1, -5. Connect the dots. Always label a point when you draw it. Okay? Just always a good idea. So, and I think only one of them fit. Yeah, the -1, -5 really didn't fit on the... Yeah. Okay. Number 15. This is a tricky one. We haven't done a lot like this. Y equals 3/2 x plus 1/2. Now the 3/2 x isn't bad. It's a plus 1/2 that's kind of a tricky thing. Because where's my y-intercept? At 1/2, isn't it? It's not on a line. It's kind of in the middle. Which is okay. We can do that. But it makes my slope a little trickier. My rise over run is 3/2. So when I go up 1, I'm actually going into the middle. 1, 2, 3. Okay? And then over 2. So I'm kind of in the middle again, aren't I? And that's the point 2 and 3.5, which is 7/2. And I could go down 3, 2, 3, and over 2. And there'd be the point -2, -5/2, or -2.5. And there's my line. So a little trickier with the half there. And if you put 3.5 or -2.5, that'd be okay. But you get the idea. All right? Let's get into the 16, 17, 18. These are pretty important. Write the equation of a line that has slope of -3/2 and y-intercept of -5. What's that equation going to be? Yeah, they gave us everything. We didn't have to do any equation. If they give us a slope and the intercept, there's nothing really left to do, is there, except plug the numbers in. And remember to put the x in. I had a few people on the quiz that wrote y equals -3/2 minus 5. They forgot the x. Don't forget the x. What did x ever do to get left behind? Poor x. Poor thing, it's crying because it misses its mommy. It got left behind. Okay. I'll write the equation line that passes through 0, 2, perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x. Okay. So through 0, 2, perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay. I know a point. There's my point. But I need the slope. Because that's the other thing we need to find the equation of a line. I need a point and a slope. And I'd be perpendicular to this line. So what is the slope of this line? Y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Yeah. That's the slope of this line is -2/1? That one's 1/2. So the perpendicular slope we'd have to, like we said, flip the fraction, change the sign, so it'd be -2/1. And then I could use my point slope form or my slope intercept form. Now, if you're really, really observant, you might notice that this point is the y-intercept, isn't it? So you got the slope and the intercept, I could just go y equals -2x plus 2 and be done. But you know what the fact is, most of us probably aren't going to notice that. It just probably isn't going to happen, so, or we won't be given something so nice. So we go into our point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Put my slope in as negative 2. This is y minus 2 equals negative 2, x minus 0. So y is supposed to be minus 2, not equals 2. Thank you. So y minus 2 equals negative 2x. Let me add 2 to each side. And I get y equals negative 2x plus 2. So I can still go through my formula. 18, the equation of the line that passes through negative 1, 1, and 1, 3. All right. What do we got here? What are we going to, I'm given 2 points. How am I going to find the equation of the line? What? Find the slope. So that would be y2 minus y1, 3 minus 1 over 1 minus negative 1. 2 over 2, slope is 1. Oh, that's nice. Slope is 1. So now I pick a point. Let's pick 1, 3 because they've got both positive numbers. Y minus what? Y minus
1 over
3, y coordinate equals slope x minus the x coordinate 1. So y minus 3, keep putting equal signs instead of minus. Go stop that. Equals 1x minus 1. Adding 3 to each side, I get y equals x plus 2. And I could leave the 1 in there or take it out because 1x is just x. Okay? Everybody okay with that one? Last one. What's going to be the relationship for those two angles? The 3x minus 6 and the x. Okay? I've got 3 choices. They're going to be congruent, supplementary, or complementary. Which one's it going to be? They're going to add up to 90 degrees, yeah. They're not going to equal individually 90, they're going to add up to 90. So 3x minus 6 plus x equals 90. Combining terms, I get 4x minus 6 equals 90. Adding 6, 4x equals 96. Divide by 4, x is 24. Okay, the algebra I kind of zip through. So there we are. That's the problem. And that's the review for the quiz. Now, I know I don't actually have a homework sheet for you, because that was the review, and you can continue to review that, continue to review the other things that you have. But some things that you could look at before the quiz tomorrow, if you really want to do some extra problems, you'll notice the section numbers in the front here are 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6. So you could very easily go to the geometry page and then go to the book website, maybe, or maybe not. There we go. Go to the book website, and you could take some section quizzes and choose these sections 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. Okay, 3-5. And it's going to go ahead and ask you a question, and you can give yourself some quizzes there on multiple choice. That'd be a great review to do. You could also go to the back of the book. You go to the back of your book, there are chapter reviews in each section. We didn't do a whole chapter for this unit, we just did part of it. But it's like about page 900. For chapter 3, it's exactly page 900. And again, each section of the book is labeled within the chapter. So we did 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, and 3.6. You could look at those problems for 3.4 through 3.6, which are 18 through 44. Do any or all or as many as you feel comfortable with until you feel like you're ready for the test. It says page 900. It's 18 through 46. That's not an assignment, but those are problems you could work on if you need a little more extra practice. No, there's not, other than studying for the test, because your homework is to study for the test. You need to be studying. And again, remember what I talked about yesterday. This is not a spectator sport. You need to actively practice this in order to be prepared. If you're just sitting here watching me and saying, yeah, I watched him do it today, I get what he did, I'm ready, and do nothing to prepare yourself personally by practicing, you're going to probably regret that choice when the grades come. You may not regret it tonight when you're not doing anything and playing a video game instead, but you'll regret it tomorrow or on Thursday when you get your test scores back. Okay? Any questions? All right. Good luck tomorrow. If you need help, stop and get help.